everybody.
Welcome to another episode of the Yorkshire Podcast Studios podcast with myself, David Easson, and James Buttler here of the Yorkshire Podcast Studios. Just two of the team, the wide-ranging team of people here who can help you at the studios. And we're going to talk about video content and podcasts and why the heck should you do this in the current business climate? What's the big rule about marketing and advertising when business might not be going so well? Don't give it up. Do more.
Sorry, was I supposed to answer?
That was the question. It's a conversation, yes. Basically, you've got to get yourselves out there. 2025 does feel like the year that video content really makes the move, doesn't it? Particularly if you've got LinkedIn. And you look at the tab at the bottom, there's a new video tab on LinkedIn. There's all these Americans talking about stuff that they go on about. Let's proliferate that with British content, I say.
Yes.
Get your face on there and get your brand out there, whether it's your personal brand or your business brand. And that means starting really as the kind of the center of it can be a podcast, can't it, James? Because what does 45 minutes of really good video chat give you?
A lot. It gives you a huge amount, and it's an ability. Ways to get your message across. It's ways to introduce yourselves to the wider world, to talk to your own staff as well. If you've got a big organisation, you can get those messages around rather than actually getting people into the same room, like the old village hall kind of thing. You can get those messages out there, keep people up to date, and obviously off the back of a full-blown podcast, you've got the ability to get all of your socials buzzing as well by taking the clips out. So there's a huge amount you can do with a podcast.
Yeah, one recording session can produce an enormous amount of content, and that does things like increase engagement with your brand, with yourself, with your company. That just the awareness of brands these days. You need to be pushing it so much, and a lot of people go on the personal brand these days as well, don't they? You've got to be out there. If you're on LinkedIn, if you're a business, you've got to be out there and pushing yourself as well as the company you work for.
Brand awareness is a really weird thing. I was talking to somebody actually in our other office a few minutes ago about kind of going around the supermarket, and you might never have bought that, but if you've seen an advert, just somewhere in your subconscious, that brand festers, and then when you suddenly find that you're going to be needing to buy soya milk or something, bang, you recognize that carton, don't you? And it's the same thing with businesses. When you are sticking yourself out there, making yourself look as good as you can, approachable to the wider world, that will be remembered.
But how important is it to be personable, to be a human being in this day and age when we all know, never mind this day and age, people buy from people, but are people actually getting contact with people? There's a lot of emailing, there's a lot of websites with a lot of text on, and actually sometimes people just want a friendly face, and that's what you've got to be.
I watch Dragon's Den a lot, and you often see on Dragon's Den, don't you, that you've got a really good business here, but you're the story. Your story behind that is the story, and everybody out there has got stories to tell and things they can bring to a podcast. You'll be amazed how much content you've got that you don't even realize is there.
And another question that people ask us when we're talking to them about the podcast that we create is, why video against audio? I listen to podcasts when I'm walking the dog, when I'm driving the car, when I'm on the train. That's what people say to me. When am I going to watch this video? Well, it's surprising how many people are watching video, isn't it, James? And there is still always a place for audio because we're all audio buffs, geeks, radio nerds. The main thing I think for me is that actually the spoken word works in so many ways, and the connection is there whether it's in video or audio. But it's people watching our videos is quite astonishing, the numbers that people are getting.
I consume podcasts both ways, really. And if I'm driving in the car or walking around, I'll listen to podcasts, or if I'm on the train or whatever. But I also find, especially with the way modern day TVs are set up, you can get YouTube up on your telly, and it's just like a normal TV program. I watch the Overlap Football podcast a lot, and you tend to watch that it comes out as an audio one as well. But I watch that one because I want to see what people are doing on it. So you'll find that there are people who probably only watch podcasts. You'll find that people that only listen to podcasts, and people like me in the middle that probably do a little bit of both. But you need to have both, and the visual podcast as well, not just the long form, the entire podcast, but that ability to clip out the reactions or those key messages and put them on your socials is huge nowadays.
Yeah, that social media reach is really important for everybody, as we know. And if you've got a continuous stream of content you can put out there. I think we're all looking for the ideal way to get LinkedIn posts daily, if not, more than daily, or some are struggling just to get things out every week. If you've got that bank of content which you're creating from, say, if people come in here for 3 or 4 hours and make 2 or 3 podcasts, you've got an awful lot of time to make an awful lot of great content.
With your business, you've got all of those staff members who've all got their own stories and their ways into the business. You've got obviously your marketing strategies. You've got various things that you want to get out there to the wider world. There are so many episodes that you've got up your sleeve that if you actually sit down and think about it, there are lots of things you can podcast about.
Yeah, it's never the question of, well, who's going to listen to that or who's going to watch that. If you put it out there, and it's made properly, it will strike and it will engage.
I do my own podcast, a cricket podcast, and I look at my analytics on that. And obviously, you've got the cricketing world. I get a lot of listens in India. I get a lot of listens in England and Australia. But I also get loads of listens in America because you've got the expat community over there. Well, finally, I get listens in Japan. I get listens in every single country. I've been the #1 podcast in St. Lucia in the Caribbean, bizarrely.
Well done, that man.
But there are people all over the place that are just looking for some interesting content to listen to. You'll find that you'll get, you might just be a Barnsley butcher, but you'll find
But
that
this chops.
somebody in China will be listening and interested in what you've got to say.
It is amazing when you see where people have listened to you.
Yeah.
You can have a look on the map. And what you don't have to do with this is spend stupid amounts of money. People say video, oh, I've got to have a incredibly shiny corporate video. I need drones coming in through the front door. We can do that. But we could do that. We could have a drone just hovering there. But no, we've got a really good technical setup here. We've got 3 cameras here. Hello, hello, hello. Hello. And
Do that again in the edit. I can hello, hello, hello.
we've got 3 cameras here. Hello, hello, and so there you go. That's it. And we've got a couple more as well that we can add in if you've got a really big team. But we've also got a great number of people here that we can help you with. But it's still cost effective. It still means that actually you're not spending thousands and thousands of pounds on one video that might have to last you 3 years, because that's what we spent the budget on.
When people have got their marketing budgets, taking a full glossy advert in a magazine or whatever, that lasts whilst somebody skims past that advert really quickly, probably never looks at it again. Your podcast will be out there forever.
It will actually, yes. Evergreen content is fantastic. You can do stuff that really talks about what we're doing right now, kind of the video version of your newsletter. The internal comms is a big thing as well. People coming to us asking for podcasts just for inside their own businesses, because people are either working at home or they're on so many different sites. But all those different people working at home and on so many different sites can all be guests on your podcast, can't they? They can all come in. Yeah, we've got some great examples. And what it does is, there's so many people. We're talking about stories, human beings. It creates that connection, and people will buy from people. I'll say it again. And people will watch people. They like to. That's part of what the video is all about. And that creates that connection, doesn't it?
One of the things my cricket podcast has taught me when I look at the analytics is when you get a big library of back episodes, people still watch them. So your stats tend to go up as the time goes on. You might not do one in a week, but you'll still get lots of views and listens, because the one you did a year ago, suddenly somebody will watch that again and stuff. So if you're producing good quality content on a regular basis, you'll find that you'll get some really good listens, but you don't get them immediately. Don't.
No.
Yeah, there's stats on there about people who start a podcast and expect world domination in the first 2 episodes. You've got to be a little bit patient. You've got to let it grow. But if you put the love into it, then you'll get the love back.
We're talking about business here. And if you're in a market which is crowded and you need to stand out, then video content will help you stand out from that crowd. When we talk about a numbers game, you're not looking to go viral unless you've done something that maybe you didn't exactly hope to do in your podcast. The way you're going to see success from business video content is that someone is going to buy your product and say, I saw you, I saw that video, I liked you, and so that's why I came to you. It's marketing, it's advertising, it's a marketing tool. The content itself in the podcast is not exactly what you're looking to see fly. So you might really want 10,000 views of your podcast episode, and great if you get it. But if no one buys anything off the back of it, what's been the point of that? You might get 60 people watching your episode, but if 3 people become regular customers, isn't that an incredible return on your investment there? And that's only on one episode. So every bit of content you're putting out there, the return on your investment is actually people liking you as people and coming to you and saying, I want to buy your product. That's what that's about. It's not about eyes on, because eyes on does not necessarily mean invoice in.
Couldn't agree more. I think, yeah, just getting those messages out there. It's that going back to brand awareness again, isn't it? Yeah, just having your podcast there on the shelf amongst the others is a big tick for your industry.
And being a leader in your industry is big as well, isn't it?
Setting yourself up as an expert in the field is not to be, you know, if you're working in your industry, you've probably got years of experience, you know what you're doing, you've got lots of stories to tell. People will listen to you, and if they're interested in what you've got, what the subject matter you're talking about, they'll listen to you, and they will. If you do it regularly, they'll start to actually think, "Well, he's an authority on that. She's an authority on that. They know what they're talking about," and that makes your business look better.
Thought leadership is a massive part of personal brand, and I think we're all learning more about personal brand and how it grows any brand that you're associated with, because I've been lucky in my kind of journalistic career to meet a lot of impressive business people and to interview them. And very often you don't think about the brand, you think about the person these days. You think about, well, I want to, I think, trying to think of the examples. I interviewed Nisha Katona once from Mowgli, if you've ever had a very nice Indian meal in Mowgli.
Right?
I interviewed her when she just opened her second restaurant. And now I think there's nearly 50, I think, across the country. Gave up being a lawyer, wanted to cook, decided to put all the recipes that our family had put together into a restaurant, built the first restaurant, made it beautiful, made it accessible. It's not hugely expensive, and got her brand so much higher. So people know about Nisha Katona more than they know about Mowgli, really.
Mm.
But Mowgli's still there, and everyone appreciates that as a really kind of high-end, not fast food, but it's a chain which can really be looked at and go, there's a bit of class about that. And she's on the telly on This Morning doing the cooking as well,
Well,
and has got books out and does other things on TV because she's become her own personal brand. That's a classic example of a person who has taken a simple idea, changed focus altogether from what was their original idea as a lawyer, and has become so much more successful and so much happier on the back of it.
the ultimate goal is to basically when um, Good Morning Britain or whatever are looking around for their guest, if they want to talk about a Barnsley butcher, keep talking about you, Mr. Barnsley Butcher.
We'll get some chops eventually.
But they will have seen the podcast. Oh, they know what they're talking about. Let's give him a ring. He can come on and be the guest on Tuesday morning. So you're the go-to authority in that area.
And we've had that as well with business people come in and go, actually, the TV rang me up and want me to be on, or the radio got me on because of some price rise in some sector, and now you are a leader in that sector. Other people will ask, where's the money out of a podcast?
Yeah.
I think we've kind of touched upon that, as though actually it's about business and growing business and it being a marketing opportunity. But there are options if people are thinking, well, how do I afford to make this, even if there is a budget for it? But can we make this more? Can we make more money?
You can monetize a podcast. You obviously need some listeners and viewers to do that, but obviously on the social media channels, YouTube, the podcast platforms that you can run your podcast on, they all have podcast platforms have advertising, and you can get a percentage of whatever number of listens you get, number of downloads you get for that. You can get a sponsor for your podcast. So if you've got an interesting podcast that might have appeal that sponsor wants to get into, that you're talking to that section of the community, that sponsor wants to get their brand in front of that section of the community, why not put £200 an episode or something in to get their message across? So there are ways to monetize, but I don't think that should be your first priority.
No.
Get your podcast up and running, get your podcast giving the messages that you want to get out there, enjoy your podcasting, be proud of the podcast you're putting out there, and then if money comes off the back of that, then that is the cherry on top.
Video content and podcasts, we think they're pretty much essential now. If you're not doing it, and we did a fair kind of in Yorkshire last year, about 6-7 months ago, where the feedback at the time was, I know I should do it, really. It's interesting. It's interesting. Something we've talked about in the office, and you see it with bits and pieces online, and some people are doing it, aren't they? It's a thing, isn't it? And then a couple of weeks back, we did another one in the same place, and it was, yeah, we know we need to do this now. We've got to do this now. Other people are doing it, and we don't want to get left behind. That's not us saying, oh, you've got to, buy now, but it's where it's going, isn't it?
Yeah, and it is daunting. First time you come into a studio, it's a daunting thing to do. To hear you always hear people say, "I don't like hearing my voice on tape or whatever." So that getting over that initial hurdle of kind of getting yourself into this chair and talking into this microphone, looking at that camera, isn't always the easiest thing to do. But here we're quite approachable. We'll help you through that. We'll help you all the way through that, and make sure that we hold your hand in those initial stages. And you will be really surprised how quickly you can be going from somebody who's really nervous sitting in this seat for the first time to somebody who's actually just talking naturally and being really happy doing this kind of thing.
Yeah, it's really engaging, kind of rewarding part of this job is getting someone in and going, right, we're going to make you look and sound great, and we can, even if you think, oh, you're going to freeze in front of camera. As I say, you do a bit to camera like I'm doing now, and the rest of it is just chatting to people who look like this. I mean, imagine
You lucky
the pain, but it's just a conversation, and that's the genius of it. It's so simple, but it's so effective.
The things as well, I think a lot of people assume that people that talk into microphones for a living or do podcasts are big characters, gregarious, loud. If they walk into a room, they're the ones that grab the attention. The best people I found in our industry and who talk into microphones are actually just kind of thoughtful people who know how to construct a sentence and stick it into a mic. I nearly fell over the construct a sentence bit there. Know how to construct a sentence and speak into a microphone and care about what they do and are passionate about it, and that'll get you so far.
I will say, giving away some of my past, some of the radio presenters, really successful radio presenters that I used to work with, I had very poor communication skills outside of, let's face it, what is a radio presenter? It's a man or woman who sits in a box for 3 or 4 hours a day and talks directly into one of those and doesn't see anybody.
And never gets interrupted.
But exactly, the skill is to make sure, as Terry Wogan, one of the very greatest radio presenters, used to say, that this person was all of your friends. And that's a really nice way of looking at it, because when you're talking to a friend.
Yeah.
And that's the way. And let's face it, if you got an ounce of ability to speak to anybody in a room, which a lot of business people have to have, you are way beyond quite a lot of those people who've been on the radio for 20, 30 years, because you've got that ability to speak to someone one-to-one or in a group session or whatever, and just be cool with it. And if you've got that, you're beyond a lot of people.
And you will find, after you've got over those initial collywobbles, you will find you have a lot of fun recording a podcast.
And we'll help you through it here at Yorkshire Podcast Studios. James Buttler, thank you for your time.
Absolute pleasure as always.
As ever, if you've got some interest in a podcast or some video content that you want to produce, and you feel you've got the burning urge to do it, and also the business says there's a burning urge to do it, please get in touch with us and just have a conversation. We are very competitive. We're just generally competitive with each other. Very flexible in terms of what we can offer you. And if you've got an idea and want to put it into action, we will help you out. Plenty of studio space here. You can find your home at Yorkshire Podcast Studios, and we'll see you next time.
Turn the party up. Yeah.